From a screenwriter who fought producers over a knife-wielding poster to an actress whose only film became her lifelong legacy, Black Girl hides bizarre production battles, surprising celebrity cameos, and strange Hollywood coincidences that transform this intimate family drama into one of cinema's most fascinating behind-the-scenes stories. Fact 1. Ossie Davis became director by accident. Ossie Davis never set out to become a film director, but a Hollywood hotel room and a typewriter changed everything. In 1970, Davis was hired to play Detective Coffin Ed Johnson in the crime film Cotton Comes to Harlem, based on Chester Himes's novel. The studio had already hired producers Samuel Goldwyn Jr. and screenwriter Arnold Pearl to adapt the book, but Goldwyn wasn't quite satisfied with the script. He knew the dialogue and street-level authenticity needed work, so he approached Davis with an unusual request. Instead of just memorizing his lines, would Davis be willing to take a pass at rewriting the screenplay? Davis agreed and checked himself into a Hollywood hotel where he spent days reworking Pearl's adaptation, infusing it with more genuine Harlem flavor and dialogue that felt real to the Black urban experience. When Goldwyn read Davis's revisions, he was blown away by how much more alive and authentic the script felt. The producer made a bold decision on the spot, offering Davis the director's chair for the entire film and reassigning the role of Coffin Ed to actor Raymond St. Jacques instead. Davis accepted, even though he had no prior feature film directing experience. Cotton Comes to Harlem became a massive box office hit, earning over $5 million and helping launch the blaxploitation film movement of the 1970s. The success gave Davis the credibility and clout to direct his next project, Black Girl, in 1972. Without that chance hotel room rewrite, Davis might never have stepped behind the camera, and Black Girl might never have been made. Fact 2. The infamous knife poster battle. When playwright J.E. Franklin first saw the promotional poster for Black Girl, she was absolutely horrified. The poster featured a massive blow-up image of actress Gloria Edwards as Norma Faye, her face twisted in rage with teeth snarling in what Franklin described as mad dog fashion, threatening her younger sister Billie Jean with a knife. Franklin knew this scene well because she had written it, but here's what made her blood boil. That moment of violence lasted exactly 5 seconds in the entire 97-minute film. The poster made it look like Black Girl was a violent exploitation thriller when it was actually an intimate family drama about 3 generations of Black women struggling with poverty, jealousy, and broken dreams. Franklin felt this was blatant misrepresentation of her work. She had spent years crafting a nuanced story about the complicated relationships between mothers and daughters, the pain of deferred dreams, and the crab-in-a-barrel mentality that can trap families in cycles of defeat. The play had been successful off-Broadway precisely because it explored the emotional and psychological dimensions of Black womanhood with depth and honesty. Now the film's marketing team was reducing all that complexity to one sensational image of Black-on-Black violence. Franklin believed the poster was designed to capitalize on the blaxploitation trend dominating cinemas in 1972, using sex and violence to sell tickets regardless of what the actual film contained. She wasn't wrong to be concerned. The marketing strategy completely misled audiences about the true nature of her story. Fact 3. The vanishing and reappearing knife. J.E. Franklin wasn't about to let that knife poster destroy her film's reputation without a fight. She made a bold threat to the producers. If they didn't change the poster, she would register her disapproval and disgust at every single newspaper interview, television appearance, and speaking engagement she attended. Franklin had written the original play, adapted the screenplay, and her voice carried weight in theater circles and the emerging Black arts movement. The producers knew she could cause serious damage to the film's reputation if she went public with her complaints, so they backed down. Within just a few days, new versions of the promotional materials appeared, and Franklin noticed with relief that the knife had been completely removed from the image. The threatening, violent imagery was gone, replaced by a less sensational version of the poster. Franklin breathed a sigh of relief, thinking she had won the battle and that her film would now be marketed more honestly. She thought the matter was settled and put it out of her mind. But then, roughly 1 week later, Franklin spotted new promotional materials for Black Girl, and to her absolute shock and fury, the knife was back. The original violent poster had returned to theaters as if nothing had ever happened. The producers had apparently decided to ignore her complaints and Franklin's threatened publicity campaign once the initial controversy died down. This bizarre back and forth over the poster became just one more frustration in what Franklin later described as a miserable experience bringing her beloved play to the screen. Fact 4. The star's one and only film. Peggy Pettit gave one of the most powerful performances in 1970s cinema, earned a nomination for Best Actress from the NAACP, and then never appeared in another feature film again. Black Girl marked both Pettit's film debut and her only starring role on the big screen. Born on February 8, 1950 in St. Louis, Missouri, Pettit brought incredible depth and vulnerability to the character of Billie Jean, the 17-year-old aspiring dancer desperate to escape the cycle of poverty and broken dreams that had trapped her older sisters. Critics praised her natural screen presence and emotional range, with some noting how the camera seemed to love her face and how she commanded attention in every scene. Roger Ebert specifically highlighted her performance in his review, calling her debut impressive. The NAACP recognized her work with a Best Actress nomination, a significant honor for any performer, let alone someone making their first film. But despite this promising start and the critical recognition, Pettit chose a different path. After Black Girl, she earned her Bachelor of Arts degree from Antioch College in 1974 and then moved to London on a prestigious Thomas J. Watson Fellowship to study theater. She eventually married French writer, director, and painter Remy Tissier in 1982 and dedicated herself to stage work, developing a unique style of solo performance rooted in African-American storytelling. She became a renowned playwright, teacher, dancer, and theater director, creating over 10 original full-length plays examining domestic violence, civil rights, and HIV/AIDS. Her stage career flourished, but cinema never saw her again. Fact 5. Secret profanity erasure. The original script for Black Girl contained plenty of raw, authentic dialogue, including multiple instances of profanity that reflected how real families actually talk to each other, especially during heated arguments. Playwright J.E. Franklin had written the dialogue to feel genuine and unfiltered, capturing the frustration and anger that simmered in this household of struggling women. But when the film was complete, the producers faced a problem. They wanted a PG rating to reach the widest possible audience, which meant all that profanity had to go. The solution they chose was both practical and sneaky. They brought in voiceover artists to dub over every single curse word with cleaner alternatives, essentially erasing the profanity in post-production without reshooting any scenes. This meant that actors' mouths would be saying one thing on screen while audiences heard something entirely different coming out of their lips. It's a technique that can look awkward and obvious if you're watching closely, creating a disconnect between what you see and what you hear. But here's where it gets really weird. After making all these changes, the producers specifically told everyone involved with the film not to mention to anyone that the dialogue had been altered. They worried that if audiences knew about the cuts, people might feel like they had missed something important, or that the film had been sanitized and watered down. The producers wanted the dubbed version to seem like it had always been that way. This secret profanity erasure remained largely unknown for years, only coming to light later when Franklin discussed her unhappy experience making the film. Fact 6. Playwrights casting battle lost. J.E. Franklin had very specific ideas about who should and shouldn't play the characters she had created, and she desperately wanted to avoid one particular actress for the role of Mudir, the wise grandmother and family matriarch. That actress was Claudia McNeil, who had become famous for playing Lena Younger in both the Broadway and film versions of Lorraine Hansberry's A Raisin in the Sun back in 1961. McNeil had become so identified with that role that she once said, "There was a time when I acted the role, now I live it." She brought a commanding presence to screen and stage, portraying strong-willed maternal figures with remarkable depth. But that was exactly Franklin's problem. She felt that McNeil had already played this type of character so memorably that casting her again would make audiences see Lena younger instead of Mudir. Franklin wanted someone fresh and different who could bring new dimensions to the grandmother role without the baggage of previous performances. She pushed back against the producers and director Ossie Davis, arguing that McNeil's casting would make Black Girl feel too much like a raisin in the sun rather than its own distinct story. Despite Franklin's objections and protests, she lost this particular battle. The producers and Davis wanted McNeil's star power and her proven ability to portray matriarchal figures, so they cast her anyway against the playwright's wishes. This became just one more creative decision that made Franklin feel like her vision for the film was being compromised and reshaped without her input or consent. Fact 7. The light-bright actress rejection. While J.E. Franklin lost her battle over Claudia McNeil's casting, she won a much more important fight when it came to the film's star. The producers wanted to cast what Franklin bluntly described as a light-bright, damn-near white actress to play Billie Jean, the youngest daughter and the film's central character. This wasn't unusual for Hollywood in the 1970s. The film industry had a long, ugly history of colorism, consistently favoring lighter-skinned black actresses for leading roles while pushing darker-skinned performers into supporting parts or ignoring them entirely. The assumption was that lighter skin would appeal more to white audiences and even some black viewers who had internalized racist beauty standards. Franklin found this attitude infuriating and deeply offensive, especially for a story specifically about the authentic black female experience. Billie Jean needed to look like she belonged in this working-class family, not like someone who had wandered in from a different world. Franklin fought hard for Peggy Pettit, a darker-skinned actress with natural beauty and genuine talent who perfectly embodied the character's youth, vulnerability, and fierce determination. The producers pushed back, but Franklin held firm, threatening to walk away from the project if they didn't cast Pettit. Eventually, she won this particular battle, and Pettit got the role that would become her only feature film appearance. Franklin's blunt language about the light-bright, damned-near-white actress reflected her raw frustration with an industry that constantly tried to whitewash black stories even when marketing them to black audiences. Fact 8. 3 actresses reprised their stage roles. When Black Girl made the transition from off-Broadway stage to Hollywood film, 3 actresses got to do something relatively rare in entertainment. They reprised the exact same roles they had originated in the theater production. Louise Stubbs, who played the bitter but loving mother Mama Rosie, Gloria Edwards as the angry and jealous eldest daughter Norma, and Loretta Green as the pregnant middle daughter Ruth Ann, all made the journey from New York's theater district to the film set in Venice Beach, Los Angeles. This kind of casting continuity is less common than you might think. Usually, when plays become movies, Hollywood studios insist on casting bigger name stars to sell tickets, which means the original stage actors get replaced even if they created the roles and know the characters inside and out. The fact that director Ossie Davis and the producers kept these 3 actresses shows unusual respect for the source material and the performers who had helped make the play successful. J.E. Franklin's play had first been adapted for the WGBH Boston television series On Being Black during the 1968-69 season, then made its off-Broadway debut in 1971, where it ran successfully enough to catch Hollywood's attention. Stubbs, Edwards, and Green had spent months or even years inhabiting these characters on stage, understanding their motivations, rhythms, and relationships in ways that new actors would need time to discover. Their familiarity with the material brought authenticity and depth to the film that might have been lost with an entirely new cast, creating a bridge between Franklin's original theatrical vision and Davis's cinematic interpretation. Fact 9. Ruby Dee's silent cameo, Glory. When director Ossie Davis was casting Black Girl, he made sure to include a small role for his real-life wife, the legendary actress Ruby Dee, even though the part had almost nothing for her to do. Dee appears briefly as Netta's biological mother, a mentally ill woman who was unable to care for her daughter, which is why Mama Rosie had taken Netta in and raised her as a foster child. The role is completely non-speaking, meaning Dee never utters a single word of dialogue on screen. She only appears for a few moments, and the scene was not even in the original stage version of the play, having been added specifically for the film adaptation. Most actors would consider such a tiny, wordless part beneath them, especially someone of Ruby Dee's stature and talent. By 1972, Dee had already established herself as one of the finest actresses in American theater and film, with memorable performances in A Raisin in the Sun and numerous other productions. But what makes this truly weird is how critics reacted to her brief appearance. Multiple reviews specifically praised Dee's performance, with several critics calling out her brief cameo portrait of a mentally ill woman as one of the film's highlights. They lauded her ability to convey deep emotion and psychological complexity without speaking, using only facial expressions and body language to communicate her character's pain and disconnection from reality. This was also notable as the first of only 2 feature films in which Ruby Dee acted that were directed by her husband, despite the couple having acted together in many other projects throughout their long careers and marriage. Fact 10. First feature for Leslie Uggams. Leslie Uggams was already a household name by 1972, with a career that most performers could only dream about, yet somehow Black Girl became her very first feature film. This seems almost impossible when you consider her resume. Uggams had been performing professionally since childhood, winning amateur contests and appearing on television variety shows. She had conquered Broadway, starring in the musical Hallelujah Baby in 1967 and winning a Tony Award for her performance when she was just 24 years old. She had hosted her own television variety series, The Leslie Uggams Show, making her one of the few Black women to headline a network TV program in the 1960s. She was famous, successful, and recognized everywhere she went. But despite all that success in theater and television, Hollywood had never cast her in a movie before. The film industry in the 1960s and early 70s had very limited roles for Black actresses, especially in dramatic films that weren't exploitation pictures. Studios simply weren't making many films with substantial parts for Black women, and when they did, those roles often went to the same handful of actresses repeatedly. So when Ossie Davis cast Uggams as Netta, the college-educated foster daughter who has escaped the family's cycle of poverty and returns home to inspire her younger sister, it marked a surprising milestone in her already impressive career. She brought star power and credibility to the film, but her presence also highlighted how difficult it was for even successful Black performers to break into feature films during this era. Fact 11. The Lost Documentary. Someone, somewhere, has footage that film historians and fans of Black Girl would love to see, but that footage has been lost for over 50 years. In 1972, producer Lee Savin hired a company called Graco to film a documentary about the making of Black Girl. This was Savin's debut as a film producer, so creating a behind-the-scenes documentary made sense as both a learning tool and potential marketing material. The documentary would have captured the entire production process, from rehearsals to actual filming on location in Venice Beach, potentially including interviews with director Ossie Davis, playwright J.E. Franklin, and the cast members. It would have shown how Davis worked with actors to bring Franklin's stage play to cinematic life, the challenges of filming in practical locations rather than on studio sets, and the creative decisions that went into adapting a theatrical piece for the screen. This kind of footage would be incredibly valuable today for understanding how independent Black cinema operated in the early 1970s, especially since Black Girl was made outside the major studio system by Cinerama Releasing Corporation. The documentary could have preserved conversations and creative processes that are now lost to history. A July 21, 1972 article in The Hollywood Reporter confirmed that Savin had indeed hired Graco for this project. But after that single mention, the documentary completely vanishes from the historical record. It was apparently never released theatrically, never included as a home video extra, and no copies have surfaced in film archives or private collections. Whether it was never completed, destroyed, or simply sitting forgotten in someone's storage unit remains a complete mystery. Fact 12. Orson Welles' location connection. When Ossie Davis was scouting locations for Black Girl's opening title sequence, he chose a spot in Venice Beach, Los Angeles that had serious cinematic pedigree. The Windward Arcade, with its distinctive columned architecture, provided the backdrop for the film's opening moments, establishing the Venice Beach setting where the struggling family lives. But this wasn't just any random architectural landmark. 14 years earlier, legendary director Orson Welles had used the exact same location for one of the most famous opening shots in film history. The Windward Arcade appears in the opening of Welles's 1958 film noir classic Touch of Evil, which features an incredible 3-minute and 20-second unbroken tracking shot that follows a car with a bomb planted in its trunk as it winds through the streets of a Mexican border town. That single continuous take, with no cuts or edits, has been studied and celebrated by filmmakers for decades as a masterpiece of technical achievement and visual storytelling. By choosing the same location for Black Girl, Davis was either consciously paying homage to Welles or simply recognized the visual power of that distinctive colonnade. Either way, it created an unlikely connection between two completely different films. Welles's gritty noir thriller about corruption and murder on the Mexican border, and Davis's intimate family drama about black women in early 70s Los Angeles. The Windward Arcade itself was part of developer Abbott Kinney's vision for Venice Beach as a cultural attraction, complete with canals meant to evoke Venice, Italy. By 1972, the area had become run down, which perfectly matched the tumble-down community feel that Davis wanted to establish. Fact 13. Charity premiere for sickle cell anemia. When Black Girl held its world premiere, the event served a purpose beyond just launching the film into theaters. The screening took place at the Strand Theater in Manhattan, which was being called the Penthouse Theater at that time, located right on Broadway in the heart of New York's theater district. But this wasn't just a typical movie premiere with celebrities walking a red carpet and critics writing reviews. The entire event was organized as a fundraising benefit for sickle cell anemia research and awareness. Sickle cell disease is a genetic blood disorder that primarily affects people of African descent, causing red blood cells to become misshapen and break down, leading to severe pain, organ damage, and shortened life expectancy. In the early 1970s, sickle cell anemia was significantly under-researched and underfunded compared to diseases that primarily affected white populations, despite affecting tens of thousands of Black Americans. The disease had only recently begun receiving national attention, partly due to advocacy from Black community leaders and celebrities who demanded more research funding and better treatment options. By making the premiere a charity benefit, the filmmakers used the attention surrounding their new movie to raise both money and awareness for this critical health issue affecting the Black community. It created a meaningful connection between the film's exploration of Black family struggles and a real-world health crisis that was devastating Black families across America. The choice of venue was also significant, putting the film on Broadway rather than in a traditional movie palace, perhaps emphasizing its theatrical origins and artistic ambitions. Fact 14. Sanford & Son's Rollo appeared. First, if you watch Black Girl closely, you'll spot a familiar face in a small cameo role. But you probably won't recognize him because he hadn't become famous yet. Nathaniel Taylor appears in a bit part in the film, and later that same year, he would land the role that would define his entire career. Rollo Lawson, the smooth-talking, stylishly dressed best friend of Lamont Sanford on the hit sitcom Sanford and Son. Taylor's appearance in Black Girl came first, filmed and released just before Sanford and Son premiered on NBC in January of 1972. According to some sources, Taylor played a tough-talking street pimp in Black Girl, though his role was small enough that he's barely mentioned in most reviews or cast lists. Within months of Black Girl's release, Taylor became a household name thanks to Sanford and Son, where his character Rollo served as a perfect foil to Red Fox's cantankerous Fred Sanford. Fred constantly insulted Rollo and didn't trust him around his son Lamont, but Rollo's cool confidence and hip wardrobe made him a fan favorite. Taylor appeared in 32 episodes over the show's 6-season run and later reprised the role in the spin-offs Grady and Sanford. He also had a brief role in the blaxploitation classic Trouble Man earlier in 1972. Taylor was actually born in St. Louis, Missouri, the same hometown as Peggy Pettit, Black Girl's star. His early career credited him as Jita Hadi before he started using his birth name. By the time he passed away in February of 2019 at age 80, Taylor was still beloved by Sanford and Son fans, who remembered Rollo's swagger and style decades after the show ended. Fact 15. Drowned out by blaxploitation. Tsunami Black Girl arrived in theaters in November of 1972, and while the timing might seem like it should have worked in the film's favor, it actually doomed it to obscurity. That single year saw an unprecedented explosion of films featuring predominantly black casts, and Black Girl found itself competing for attention and theater screens with an overwhelming number of bigger, flashier, and more heavily marketed productions. The same year brought audiences Superfly, Gordon Parks' crime drama that became a cultural phenomenon with its iconic Curtis Mayfield soundtrack. Martin Ritt's Sounder, a Depression-era family drama, earned critical acclaim and multiple Oscar nominations. Sidney J. Fury's Lady Sings the Blues launched Diana Ross's film career with her portrayal of Billie Holiday. Sidney Poitier directed and starred in Buck and the Preacher alongside Ruby Dee. The vampire film Blackula put a black twist on horror. Ivan Dixon made Trouble Man. Jack Starrett directed Slaughter. Bruce Clark's Hammer, Barry Shear's Across 110th Street, and Robert Hartford Davis's Black Gun all competed for audiences. There was also Joseph Sargent's The Man, starring James Earl Jones as America's first black president. That's at least 15 major releases, and there were others beyond even these. Black Girl simply couldn't compete. Its quiet, intimate story about family dysfunction and women's struggles didn't have the sex appeal of blaxploitation or the prestige of Sounder. It got lost in the shuffle, receiving limited distribution and quickly disappearing from theaters. Critics like Roger Ebert gave it positive reviews, but positive reviews couldn't overcome the tsunami of competing films flooding the market.